So you're trying to decide what lightweight Bluetooth headset you should be using in your everyday life situation. Well, guess what? You're in store for a good episode today where we've got the goods on which Bluetooth headset is the best. Maestro, roll the intro. And welcome to What the Tech. I'm Rolando, the founder of Global Tech Worldwide. And on this show, we talk about business trends, community, and we also look at technology. And in this episode, we've got a good one for you. We're reviewing some Bluetooth headsets. And as always, somebody that's always joining me at this hour on Tuesday, over here in this other square, my friend and colleague, Dave Kelly.
Rolando, great to see you. Not quite Hollywood squares, but squares nonetheless.
Listen, man.
Like Mr. Rogers used to say, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Speaking of neighborhoods, I'm really excited to see some of these tests and videos that you put together in your neighborhood to see how these products stood up. So listen, among the heavyweights, Poly, formerly Plantronics and Polycom, they stood alone with the behind the ear lightweight Bluetooth headset. They were the only ones that had this form factor for a very long time, but a challenger has entered the ring and we've put them to the test. So
I know, yeah.
The test today, the Poly Voyager 5200 UC versus the Blue Parrott M300. You know what? We put them to the test of life.
Right. And you know, Dave,
yeah.
What we don't do around here is just sit in the lab and let the noise that we can control with dials and buttons do the determination. We go out in the real world and things we can't control, right? Noise and wind and cars and things like that. So everybody that's watching this can see, oh yeah, you can't manufacture the wind outside and you didn't control or manipulate anything. This is exactly like you would be using it out on your own.
Yeah, the real life tests. I'm looking forward to seeing how these two products perform. You know what? It was only a matter of time before the 5200 had a contender. So here it is from Blue Parrott. But listen, before we jump into these tests,
right?
Why don't we jump into a quick trivia question? I hear it's a true or false question today. Oh boy! All right. So true or false? The world's first truly wireless in-ear headphones were revealed at the IFA Technology Show in Berlin by a Japanese consumer electronics manufacturer, Onkyo.
I used to have their...
I believe correct.
I think that's how you say it.
Onkyo?
Very good power amplifiers for home theater use.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember I've seen that brand, and I've seen that brand up against others like Denon, for example. I think they were quality products.
Well, it's a 50-50 chance for somebody's going to win, right?
We'll find out at the end of the show.
Okay. All right, Dave. Well done. Thank you very much, Ori, for keeping us on our toes. And as I said earlier, this stuff is the real world stuff. Stuff you want to see when you're in your car, when you're walking, when you're out with your kid, all the stuff that you are going to be doing. More than just, we could have done this in the office. We've done this before. We could have done a dunk test, but we'll probably save that for later. But let's show you what you're going to get with both of these two contenders. They're both very good headsets, but only one can be declared a winner. Ori, do we have the tail of the tape? All right. So let's start off with a couple of specs, and then we can go into the test. They both weigh the same. They look nearly identical, but you will be surprised on some of the performance and even some of the stats here. They both have both 7 ounces. One gets 7 hours of talk time. The other one gets up to 14 hours. We'll also throw in the pluses and minuses at the end that once we do all the tests. One has up to 300 feet of range. The other 98 feet. The Poly 5200 comes in with also a case, a travel case if you want. That's optional. It's standard on the UC version. The Blue Parrott uses a USB-C port for charging. The 5200 uses a micro USB, it's kind of your Android style, but Android now is also migrating to USB-C. The 5200 comes with a 2-year warranty. The M300 clocks in with a 1-year warranty. And if you're a customer that's listening to us out in the EU, one of those European countries, you get a full 2 years. Who knows why they have those differences, but they do. Now, price-wise, the M300 clocks in a little bit less at $99 MSRP. The 5200 comes in those 2 flavors, as I mentioned before. The UC version, you get the dongle and you get the travel charger, which I would opt for. That's $219 versus $119 by the just the headset itself. Both have some type of waterproofing. They're a little bit different. Let me explain to you what they are. The IP54 is a standard, and it's got to do with how much time things spend underwater, what type of water, how it gets injected, and so forth. So basically, how well it's waterproofed from moisture and dust in this case. And the Plantronics takes a different route with the P2I coating, which is an application of a type of coating or sealant that's actually on the components. It's a very different approach. It's interesting. And Dave, I think we should put both of these to a waterproof test down the line. Now, small differences are in the Bluetooth, where the 5200 comes in with a 5.0 Bluetooth. And if you're a geek, you want 5.1, look it up. We can also take questions on that later. Both will let you do voice assistant, and they both have some unique features where the M300 gives you that push to talk. So if you're in the public sector, or where you're doing emergency, 911, maybe construction, even I've seen some realtors use push to talk. This is something that you may want to take a look at. Whereas the 5200 comes with some integrations via the app, the mobile app. It allows you to do Alexa tile integration. I love those little tiles you can stick on your keychain or other valuable items, and you can update your 5200 right via the app. No need to stick it into the computer. So now that you know the specifics, let's go to the tests. Let's see how they actually perform. And before we jump into the performance and all of the excitement, I want to invite you to bump that like button so we can bring this content to more people. Now, that also tells us that we're on the right track. Go ahead and like it if you find this content worth and valuable to you, and so we can bring it to more people as well. All right. Now, Dave, who's going first, me or you? It looks
Why
like
don't
me.
you take it? You know what? This is going to be an interesting head-to-head fight. They're very similar products in design. They have a slightly different features, similar price points, but two of the big heavyweights are going head-to-head.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to just the entire battle royale that we're up against today.
All right. So in the first test that we've got both of these, so you will see both the 5200 and the M300 back to back on these 2 clips that we have. So if you're working at home and you want to get out, you're tired of looking at the 4 walls. I know I've had this all the time the last 19 months. These 4 walls finally get to you. You head on outside. It's a nice day, or maybe not be so nice, but it's a day where you want to go outside and you want to go for that walk. I want to walk to the park. I happen to live near a state park, so I like taking advantage of going through the trails and getting there. But on the way there in the afternoon, Dave, sometimes you get calls. I get
Absolutely.
Dave ringing in one ear, another coworker ringing, and so you know what? You got to be ready for those type of events. And so we're going to show you what you're going to sound like if you had to take a call heading out to the park. Go ahead, roll it, Ori. I guess Ori. Is Ori still there?
All right. Looks like we might have a slight delay.
Okay. That's all right.
And
And while he's getting that queued up, let's see what's okay. So while he's getting that queued up, Dave, the going to a park around here for us is awesome. We've got a lot of trails, and I just love going outside. And one of the things that I've had to use all kinds of headsets over the years is how some headsets just don't cut it when it comes to going outdoors. They do well when you're indoors, and we've featured several of those. When you're indoors, everything, there's no issue. But when you go outdoors in the elements, you start seeing the differences between the top manufacturers versus the ones that have lower quality technology in their product.
Yeah, and you know what? Some of these brands they're manufacturing headsets for a particular environment. So they'll put microphones on them for an office environment, but you know what? When you take them outside, if you're even able to, you know, they just don't perform because they really weren't designed for that. You know what I hate the most is being stuck without a headset. I know immediately when I'm talking to someone and they're just holding the phone up if they happen to be outside. Forget about the fact that the voice quality may not be excellent, but the wind noise when you're just using a hand receiver, when you're just using your phone itself, every inch of that background noise and wind noise always seems to bleed through the call. It always seems to be the worst. So looking forward to see how these go here. So it seems like we have our producer back on board.
Something happened on his end at the studio. Ori, are we back up? Because we were waiting for you to come back. So we're at the point to talk about the video. We're gonna roll to the video. All right. It's okay. Yep, in the park with the 5200. Go ahead and roll that. So you want to go for a nice walk out to the park on that day. It's nice and lovely. You want to get out over the four walls, but you're working and you're expecting calls from colleagues, friends, or maybe the boss. You don't want to sound like you've taken a break. Well, let me show you what you're going to sound on the Plantronics 5200 UC Bluetooth headset. Let's take it outside. All right. So now we're in the park, we're walking around in tow with two little ones, a four-legged one and a two-legged one. You can hear hawks nearby chirping away, or do they chirp? Do hawks chirp? Do they sing? I don't know exactly what the technical term is. They make some kind of noise. They call out to other hawks. All right, I hear some crickets chirping away. And this has been the test with the Plantronics Poly 5200 UC Bluetooth headset. So you go out on that nice sunny day and you want to get outside of the home. Maybe you're working from home, but you don't want to let your colleagues know that you're on the phone, walking around the park, nor should they see or hear you. Maybe see, but I don't know, definitely not hear you or not hear wind and all kinds of noises. That's why we're taking this BlueParrott M300 Bluetooth headset out for a spin. Are you hearing mostly wind as I'm talking, or do you hear mostly my voice? The key to a really good Bluetooth headset is to have a microphone that blocks out wind noise, especially if you want to be outside. So we've got a semi-windy day. Let me whip around here. You can see those trees moving a bit behind me. Who wouldn't want to be outside in this? It's beautiful. Nature, fresh air, but the wind can be a problem. And it's whipping around right now as I'm in this area of the park. Now, hopefully this microphone blocked out some of that noise and gave us a really good idea of how well or how bad it performed. This has been a test using the BlueParrott M300-XT Bluetooth headset. All right.
Ooh, very different experiences there, Rolando.
Very different. This surprised me, Dave, because we've tested several other BlueParrott, the 350, the 450, the 550, and the M300. I was surprised that we didn't get better microphone noise canceling out of it, like we've seen in some of their other products.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you can't control Mother Nature. I don't know if maybe it was less windy when you were doing the first test with the 5200, but a noticeable difference. Could certainly hear some of the more with the wind, and maybe just a lower transmit audio when you did the BlueParrott solution there.
That's right, and I just heard more volume coming out of that 5200. So you heard my voice. Maybe you're right. The transmit volume, what you actually hearing on the other side, has a little more oomph to it than the M300.
Yeah.
But
The 5200, the first test
oh yeah,
that we showed, I didn't hear any birds. I didn't hear the crickets in the background. Just seemed like a beautiful day. If there was no video, I probably would never have guessed that you were even outside.
that's right, and that's what you want when you go outside. You don't want all that stuff because the number one thing that bothers people when they're on a phone call is A, if they're on a speakerphone, or B, there's all of that wind. I mean, you've taken calls and many calls over the years, and you either the speakerphone where you're hearing everything in the world, or somebody's walking as they talking to you, or if they're going somewhere, you can hear all of that noise. That noise, that in this case the wind. So in this case, in this test so far, it looks like with the walk to the park test, we're gonna have to give it to the 5200.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. So now we'll have to show another test.
All right, let's see. They get the M300 has a second chance here.
All right, so you probably do things like taking your kids to soccer practice. Let me start this segment over. So you probably take the kids to soccer practice or to the park. And how well do you sound? Again, if you have to take that phone call, could be anybody. Maybe it's an emergency call, the most important client of the day, or the most important boss of the day. Let's take a look at some of these clips. More importantly, take a listen to these clips and see how they perform head to head.
And you also have little Johnny or little Susie's soccer game or practice that you got to go to. And maybe you're going to take calls when you get there. And actually, you think maybe that environment's not so bad because it's an open field. But you'd be wrong to think that, because in an open field, you have more room for wind to whip around, blow, and get into that microphone. So let's take a look and see how the Plantronics 5200 UC performs in an open field when you're taking little Johnny or Susie out to the soccer field to do their practice. Hopefully the wind isn't too bothersome. Right now the wind is not kicking up too much, but as you're walking along, as you can see, there may be some wind that makes it into this microphone. And that's what you want to know. What do you sound like when you get that call? Is that person going to be bothered from the wind noise? Will they be bothered at all? Or will this headset actually block out most of that? And you want a headset that blocks most of it and your voice is coming through rather than the wind. I'm going to go silent to see if we get any wind in the microphone. And that has been a test using the Plantronics 5200 UC Bluetooth headset. All right, so you're going to a soccer game with little Johnny or Susie. What do you sound like when you get there? Will the open field disturb your good quality audio? Let's find out. I'm taking the M300 by Blue Parrott out to the soccer field, simulating your practice with your son or daughter that is out there playing the game. Let's take a look. And now you're on the sidelines at your favorite spot on the field, cheering Johnny or Susie. Go, 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 team, go, go, go. Yeah, go, go, go. Rah, rah, rah. Boom, boom, bap. Go, score, goal. Yes, boss. Yes. I'm on it. I'll send you those reports. No problem. All right. This has been a test with the Blue Parrott M300 Bluetooth headset using the soccer field as our playing field. You got to have fun with this stuff after a while, right?
Yeah, there needs to be a little dose of fun within this little technology niche market that we're in. Something that I mean, I gotta ask Rolando, something that's kind of hard to demo. They comfortable? What do you think about the comfort of the Blue Parrott compared to the M2200?
I find the 5200 slightly more comfortable. There's a small difference. It's very small. On the ear hook, let's see, they have them both. On the Plantronics, the ear hook is one piece all the way around the ear, the way they've molded that. And on the M300, it's two pieces that are smaller, and there's a separation here. It's very slight. For
Yeah.
most people, it would be fine. So it's a slight edge. They're very close, but the edge, I'll give it to the 5200 a little bit on the comfort side. Now, as it pertains to this test with the soccer field, I did hear some bird noises with the 5200. So you could it sounded like either I'm at a window or somewhere outside. But as we've seen so far with the M300, we get that wind kicking up. It doesn't have that noise canceling capability for that particular thing. I didn't hear any birds. And we noticed for the second time now that the voice is coming out much louder with the 5200 over the M300. So in this case, it was close, but I still give it to the 5200 on this one.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'll also give it to the 5200. But one thing that I was very impressed with the M300 that we didn't demo at the same time with the 5200, when you were pretending to be a fan and you had raised your voice, there was no distortion in that and the sound quality at all. You know, it stayed very constant. And I know that, you know what, they are an audio company. They do a really good job with being able to monitor and kind of crush any peak decibels. There was no crackling in that audio. It still sounded, and you were screaming. I could see it in your face how excited you were for Johnny out there on the field. But
in this case, it would have been Bella and T.
T.S. Well, you did a great job, and you know the product did a good job in just maintaining that good audio quality. Maybe we do a screaming test at some point with the 5200, but in terms of keeping out the background noise, 5200,
Oh, there they go. There we go. There they go. That's some footage that got left off of the cutting room floor with my little Bella running around the field and TS also as well.
Is that a drone or is that just a selfie stick?
That is just a selfie. Just out there with them too. They were, as you can see, she's having so much fun. She's an older senior dog. So on a day like that day, it was really nice. It was a little cooler, which she's very short coat, but she loves the cold weather. I don't get it. I know, she surprises me.
Hey, good for her. I'm going to be very jealous in a couple of months looking at footage like this of green grass and blue skies.
Nothing but white snow on the ground.
No, we're going to be locked in it. But you know what? We've already been talking about some other types of winter tests. Hey, winter equals water. We were when we showed the tail of the tape, two different types of kind of waterproofing or weather coating on there. We learned a little bit, doing some of that research, and we'll put that to the winter test coming up. But right now, we're still going to enjoy what we have left of autumn.
All right, and let's jump into this other test. In this test, we're calling it the burst test. So you've got to go outside. What happens when your dog jumps off the leash? Or maybe your kid runs out in front of you and you're talking to somebody in mid-conversation. This happens all the time. If you have a little one, you have a toddler, they like to run out. You have a dog, they like to go chase squirrels. This is what you're going to sound like when that happens. Roll it. Now let's do an all-important burst test. This is a test where maybe your dog gets loose or your kid jumps out in front of you and you're trying to save them from running after a squirrel or doing something dangerous. So let's see what that sounds like. All right, here we go. Here we go. Hey. Oh, there they go. Here we go. You got to get them. Oh, do you hear a whole lot of wind? Oh! You want to do it again? All right, go over there by the tree. Let's say your kid goes running, darting out in front, and you got to go get him. What do you sound like when you're on that call? Hey! Gotcha. And this has been the burst test with the Plantronics 5200 UC headset. So what happens when you're on your way to the park and maybe your kid jumps out in front of you, or you've got your dog with you? It's all of a sudden the leash, they pull on it. How well does this particular headset block out that noise, whether it's the wind or something else? So let's just do a little quick burst running test to see if the noise from the wind and everything else as you're trying to go grab your kid, in my case he's kind of out in front of me, if it's blocked, or if you just hear nothing or very little. Let's go. Let's try this. There he is. There he is. Let's get him. Let's get him. I found him. And all of a sudden, he starts chasing the squirrel like he's a dog, and you gotta go get him. Let's go get him. There he is. Gotcha. And all is good because you have your kid. No major problems happen except maybe you're out of breath. And hopefully much of that didn't make it into the video, or in this case, the person you're talking to on the other side of the phone or the conference call that you're on.
Sheesh, Rolando,
Big
you're
difference.
fast, man. You sound much faster with the Blue Parrott on, I gotta say.
It makes me sound much faster, like I'm actually running. It does like psychologically. You're like, you're not moving with that fit. You're not going. But I was hustling on both of that. I was hearkening back to my football days in Minnesota, and just trying to channel that chasing somebody down. But yeah, on that 5200, it sounded like I was barely moving. There was a teeny little bit, but you could hear me. You can hear me when I talked, and then when I wasn't talking, you could actually see that wind movement that normally comes through was gone.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, every time I do one of these tests with the 5200, I'm a little bit more surprised at what it does. And this particular test, it really surprised me.
And I know that this is a sound test, but something I want to point out to both of these headsets, they both stayed on your head. You didn't have to hold on to anything.
That's right.
And I know that that's completely an extreme type of test, but if you take someone that's just multitasking, you're in your office, you're multitasking, you might be below a desk, above a desk, changing something, whatever it might be. It's nice to not have to go up and readjust everything. And I got to say, in terms of wearability, they both seem to be very, very good with the staying power. I don't even know how you'd wearability or
that's right. The wearability
not the
under
right
these
word.
Conditions, right? You got to
stability.
Yeah, because this does happen, and there are people that may have this type of job where they're moving around more, they're walking around more, maybe they're up and down different locations, and the last thing you want is for something to pop off,
right,
accidentally. And this was an extreme test showing that both of these stay on the ear very well without popping or sliding off.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And I know Blue Parrott, they a big part of their market is within the transportation sector or drivers themselves. Drivers are coming in and out of their trucks. Nice to know that it's not going to jump off the side of your head there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Stay nice and comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say, so this one for me, I gave the burst test to the 5200 on this one.
Yeah, you know what?
I agree, disagree.
I would have to agree. I mean, I think the difference is night and day. There's really nothing to argue there. You couldn't hear that wind as much on the 5200 as you certainly could with the Blue Parrott. So it did a really good job there.
Yeah. So if you've got toddlers or dogs, this is the one for you. The test for you. A nod to you with your dogs and toddlers. Okay, Dave. I think you're taking it away with the next one, right?
Well, listen, before we jump into that, I just want to say again, for the folks that are viewing, if you like the content, please bump that like button. Lets us know that we're on the right track, and we'll continue to bring you some great content like this. So within our next demo here, what are we doing? The headsets versus drive test. I kind of just mentioned this with Blue Parrott going after the truck drivers. You know what? Salespeople, you're splitting your time. You're in your office. You're in your car. You're in the mobile office. You're in somebody else's office. The fact of the matter is you're still doing a lot of business when you're in the car and you're trying to get from point A to point B. So the number one reason that people tend to use these Bluetooth headsets is certainly because of, the hands-free laws. Right. I live in the state of New Hampshire. We're on the border of Massachusetts. Both have hands-free laws. I believe California, quite a long time ago, was one of the first states to put this into action. So, you know what? It's always good to be safe when you're driving. Headsets have kind of changed the way that folks are able to multitask, hold the conversations, but still stay hands-free. We're not putting these up against the Bluetooth systems that people have in their cars. I think by now, anything that's manufactured within the past 5 years for vehicles, they have the built-in Bluetooth, and it sounds all right, but it certainly doesn't sound like either of these two solutions do. So here's a look at how the 5200 and M300 performed during the car driving test.
I've got the Poly 5200 UC headset out on the road in the car. Let's see how much noise it actually filters out. Let's take it for a spin now. Let's start with the windows down. We're at cruising speed. We'll see how much noise it picks up or actually takes out with the windows down. Try to have a little conversation with you. You're heading over maybe to go pick up some groceries. Take the windows back up. Seal up the cabin. And now that's what this sounds like with the car closed. Hopefully, just picking up my voice instead of road noise. And this has been a test with the Plantronics 5200 UC Bluetooth headset. In this test, we're taking the Blue Parrott M300-XT Bluetooth headset for a spin. This is what it sounds like when you're in the car. Let's go right to it. So we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to do windows up and then windows down, so we could find out how much wind and noise blocking capability this headset has. Just gonna roll the windows down. You're pulling up to a red light. Maybe you're not going so fast. It's a nice day outside. You want to get that fresh air. Do we get a lot of those other cars coming through? Does it sound like I'm in a wind tunnel? Maybe it does sound like I'm in a car. Maybe it doesn't sound like I'm in a car. It sounds like a good, normal, crystal clear phone call. All right, here we go. Bringing up the car to speed. It's at a good 30 miles an hour right now. We're about 40 miles an hour. Hopefully some of this wind does get filtered out, so you can keep the windows down if you want. Let's go windows down. I should say, now let's go windows back up. Seal it back up. And let's see what it sounds like. And this has been a test with the Blue Parrott M300-XT Bluetooth headset.
All right.
Good test.
There you have it.
It's so hard. It's so hard to say which one is better. You know, they both did such a good job. I did notice the Tesla next to you when you put the windows down, the white one.
Yeah.
Like, that thing's probably not as loud as that motorcycle that's been following you around.
That Ducati.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Tesla. We have some in the neighborhood, boy, and I gotta tell you, you got to keep your eyes open because you don't even hear them till they're like right up on you if you're walking around the neighborhood. They're just so silent. I mean, if you're used to this a car just making noise as it's going by, whether it's the tires or the engine, they pull up and you're like, oh, there's something right behind me. But this one's a little harder to judge. I would say that with the windows up, I think, the voice was a little softer on the 300, but it was a little bit clearer. It was coming through. It was doing a decent job with the cabin windows closed.
Yeah.
I heard a little popping sound, and I don't know, the average viewer may not be able to even notice it, but I noticed that with the 5200, there was a little bit of popping noise when I was talking. But you could still see that when you get up to the cruising speed, I think I got up to about 55 miles an hour on both, that there still is a difference there between one and the other. And the 5200 was able to manage the higher speeds and the velocity a little bit better. But I thought the clarity on the M300 was quite good with the windows down.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. It's almost like the Blue Parrott knew that you were driving and not running, because I was kind of expecting kind of a similar outcome to the burst test, but I got to give it up to the M300 there. It did a really good job with that noise, the noise cancellation with the wind. I saw you putting down all your windows. I saw the sunroof opening up. Again, I could hear a little bit on the outside. I know cars are kind of quieter these days, but it sounded very, very impressive, for what it was. And, let's face it, it's nice to have the windows down. I hate having to throw all my windows up just to have a phone call. It's nice when you can keep them down, or you have your heat or your AC or whatever it might be cranked up, which would also create some wind. But they both performed very well. I guess which way are you leaning on this one?
I don't know. I'd hate to say it's a tie, but I'm looking at my notes. I get, I guess if you drive with the windows down most of the time, the edge may go to the Blue Parrott on this one. I think it's just if that's what you do, they have a slight edge on this particular test. And so I guess I give this one to the M300.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think the M300 may manage the audio signals different when they're blocking out background noise to what the transmit is. Because I noticed it is very clear, but it just seems to get knocked back a decibel or two.
Yep.
But hey, you know what? There's just different components within the two different products. But I'd also say I think the Blue Parrott just barely edged out the 5200 in this test.
I agree, Dave. I agree. And so let's move on to the next part. So if you're going somewhere in your car, like you said, salespeople, if you're going somewhere in your car and you get to that meeting, you're on the call in the car, talking to whomever, the boss, the colleague, or client. You know what happens, Dave? A lot of times is you get there, wherever you're going, and you're still stuck in the car, and you don't want to go outside because it may be windy, it may be raining, whatever. You don't want that call to be interrupted. Maybe something, it only takes a little bit, a half a second for you to start repeating yourself. Because somebody says, I can't hear you very well. And you're engaged in a conference call and you don't want everybody to know, you're walking around on a parking lot.
Yeah,
this is the test for you, because I've been in I've been in a car, going to the airport, parking the car, and in between parking the car at the airport to the terminal, you're like glued to the wheel if you don't have a headset. But if you do, a good quality headset should come in and do the job. So Ori, go ahead and roll that.
You've been there before. You're in the car, you got a call, but you got to go somewhere. Maybe you got to go in the building, you're running into a client meeting or whatever, and you got to go through the parking lot, that dreaded parking lot where all that noise gets seep into the call. Let's simulate that. So let's go. So I've got with me the Plantronics 5200 UC doing this simulation. You get outside of the car where you have a little bit of a controlled environment. Now you step outside, it could be windy. You got cars, you got a road over here. You could have people honking the horn. And you're just trying to get to the next spot so that your conversation doesn't sound so crummy. Well, will the 5200 UC headset stand up, or will it let you down? Okay, this has been the test through the parking lot with the Plantronics 5200 UC headset. So you got to get to that next place that you have arrived at. You're in the parking lot. You got to go. There's a little bit of sprinkling going on. What does that conversation sound like when you get out of the car and get to the place? Does the parking lot wind and all that other stuff bother you, or the car? Not you, but the person you're talking to. Let's check this out. All right. So you're talking to that person and tell them, hey, yeah, good seeing you, good talking to you. I'll call you later. I gotta go. I gotta get to this dentist appointment, whatever. And you maybe it's sprinkling like right now. And you decide, I gotta make a run for it. So I don't want to get flattened. And then you say, hey, all right, look, good talking to you. I'm here on my next appointment. I'll talk to you later. All right. And you say goodbye. And this has been a test with the Blue Parrott M300 Bluetooth headset.
All right, there you go.
Man, similar results, I would say, from this test to some of the others.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a pattern that we're seeing that's quite interesting. All of these tests are, again, we don't control the environment. It is what it is, and the sound is what it is. And again, the 5200 does manage to block out that movement. Like, it doesn't even sound, again, you said that earlier, it doesn't even sound as if I'm moving when
No.
I'm on the 5200. So that noise, if you were to close your eyes, and I was closing my eyes just listening, it didn't sound like I was outside. Whereas that M300, it did come through, especially when
Yeah.
I started to cross the street a little bit there to avoid the car from flattening me.
That was good. It's like you did a burst test and the parking lot test all at once. I'll tell you what I love about that 5200 is the confidence that I would have using that particular product. You don't have to tell the person on the other phone, excuse the wind noise, excuse me, I'm getting out of my car. You don't have to waste
Absolutely.
time explaining what may or may not happen. I think a user of a 5200 is going to know immediately. I don't have to tell the people where I'm going or what I'm doing. I'm confident that this product's blocking out the noise and that they'll never know. But I got to say, with the Blue Parrott, maybe not so much. I might have to explain, hey, I'm jumping out of my car right now. You might hear a little background noise.
You
But
have to
I'm
do
still
some
here.
splaining.
A little bit of splaining to do.
You're right. I can't disagree with anything you've said, especially now that we've done a few of these tests. So what I say in this test, this one has to go to the 5200. This is very clear. It's not even close. So I'm leaning towards the 5200 on this one.
You know what? Me too. I mean, I think you kind of got that from what I was saying. But yeah, the 5200, while it may not be the new contender, it definitely deserves to be where it is within this product segment. What an awesome solution.
You said something that was really interesting, the word confidence. I think a lot of people, when they use a device, just any device for that matter, they don't know what it's going to do until you're under that situation, right? Whether you're walking somewhere, whether your kid runs out in front of you, or in this
Right.
case, going through a parking lot, which is
Yep.
what people do every single day. You can have the complete confidence that when you're wearing this particular device, the 5200, it ain't going to bother the person you're talking to. So you can have complete confidence. And I like that. So if you're somebody that wants something that is going to do the job, especially if you're outside and doing these kind of activities, it's going to get the job done. I like it. All right, Dave. Let me tee it up for you.
All right.
Go for it.
So moving on to our next test here. You know what? When I go into the city, there's always construction. Luckily, there's no construction going on around my home office environment. But certainly when I'm out and about, trucks make a lot of noise. Shoot, just a truck backing up has got to be the most annoying sound I've ever heard. Shout out to my neighbor who owns a business and has some of these big giant trucks. He wakes up everyone backing up. I wish I had noise canceling earbuds that I could just put in when I go to sleep, so I don't have to hear my neighbor backing up his trucks in the morning. But with this test, this is the construction test. You got trucks, people, beeping, demolition, everything, within a construction site. So maybe you work or you live around some of these places, and although that those noises can be annoying, you know what? Having a headset can certainly, again, isolate the folks that you're talking to so that they don't have to be distracted by these sounds. So let's take a look at how the 5200 UC and M300 performed during this test.
So I am approaching this excavator that is tearing down a house in another neighborhood. That'd be a great opportunity to see how much noise can be blocked out by this Plantronics 5200 UC headset. Let's check it out. As you can see, let me whip around. I don't know if you could catch that. That big old truck, garbage dumpster that's got behind it. And on the other side is a excavator knocking down this house. You can see there's the truck. There's a lot of daylight out. Let's try to get it. I'm about, let me toss a football over there. That's probably 30 yards away. I don't want to get too close. I don't want any debris to hit me. But I'm close enough where it's kind of noisy. And at the same time, we've got some wind really whipping around. Yeah, there you go. And because the sun is right in the camera, you may not see all the action. But believe me, you got some noise back here going on. See the cones behind me, the tape. Yeah, you can see a little bit of the excavator. All right. How well does this do? This has been a test using the Plantronics 5200-UC Bluetooth headset.
So this is a test with the M300 Blue Parrott Bluetooth headset. I was walking by and I noticed that one of the neighborhoods nearby had a excavator. I hope I'm saying it right because I don't know all my trucks and all that stuff, but an excavator that was tearing down a house that had burnt down a few months ago. And I thought it'd be a great test to see how much noise can be filtered out. So I'm going to whip around and let you see. Oh, look, we got a lot of daylight in there. So behind me is a truck and an excavator digging out a house. See if we can get it in the frame here. And we also have a windy day. So we've got wind noise, we've got serious construction noise going on behind me. It's kind of distracting. I'm going to go a little bit quiet. Let's just see if you can pick up any of that noise. All right. So you can see I'm probably about as close as I can safely get to it without getting debris thrown on me. So this has been a test with the Blue Parrott M300-XT Bluetooth headset.
Wow. Good test.
What do you think?
Man, I don't know. So something seemed a little different with the audio when we did the 5200. Was that on narrowband versus wideband audio?
Right. So we're gonna talk about that in a moment. There's a feature on the 5200 that allows you to toggle the mode. Essentially, wideband allows a more richer audio to go through, and narrowband is like if I was talking in like this. So it's a little bit more, but so the voice may come out a little louder, but it chops off some of the frequencies when I do that. And so we're going to show you the differences between narrowband and wideband, but we wanted to throw that in there because there are people, because the wideband does chew up more battery time or talk time on the 5200. You don't on the M300, you don't have that option. Not that I'm aware of. If somebody knows how to turn that on and off, let us know, but I'm not aware that you can toggle that on and off on the M300. So we wanted to demonstrate what that looked like when you're outside as well with the narrowband. So we'll show you the difference here in a moment, Dave, so people could see narrowband versus wideband talking.
You know, I got to say, similar result from some of the other tests. I didn't hear the wind on that 5200 series.
Mm-hmm.
If I did, it was very, very slight.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was different days when you were doing the test.
It was the same. It was the same. I mean, that you could see the housing and that was behind me and that excavator. It was still going. I mean, the sun was in the same position. It was just back to back. Take one headset on, take the other one off. So the wind was whipping around on both of these. Actually, I mentioned that on the 5200 to see if you hear the wind because at that time the wind was kicking up.
Yeah.
But you don't hear it. You don't hear it.
And those the excavators themselves make a lot of noise.
And
it's
the
a
debris
hydraulic
too.
system.
Yeah, and then all the debris it's pulling out of the house and dumping it in that dumpster. Like when it lands, it goes.
Right.
There's a lot of noise there, so it was very distracting for me. Like to try to talk and to try like, what do I got to say next with all of that noise? But I would say both of them did an adequate job, right?
Yep.
So they didn't sound like you were in a construction site, but but then again, you notice where the difference is between the two. So they both do an adequate job, but the 5200 has an extra layer. I would call it an extra layer of protection. Because if you're in a construction site, very likely you're going to have that noise of the machinery, but you could have other elements that are creating noise. And in this case, I have the confidence that the 5200 will take care of that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'll tell you, if I owned a construction company and I had my guys or gals out there, I'd strap a 5200 on all of them, including all of the excavation operators.
Yeah. No, why not? Why not? If you got to take a call and you got to be out there, because it's allowed. Anybody who's worked near or around construction or heavy equipment knows those things can get really loud.
Yeah.
So this is the no BS test. How does this perform around equipment? And in this case, they both adequately perform. Just one performed better.
Yep. So I would agree. I got to put it up to the 5200 series on here. It was a good fight, Blue Parrott, but you know, something about the incumbent heavyweight. I don't think they're passing their belt today.
Yeah, I think the 5200 in this case wins I mean, they're 5 out of the 6 tests that we saw. And some of them were soundly, you know, to the advantage of the 5200. But I think that they both have their merits, but there can only be one that is the best. And in this particular group of tests, yes, the winner is the 5200.
Yep, I would have to agree with you on that.
There you go. It retains its belt in terms of heavyweight status.
The Mike Tyson of the headset, of the lightweight behind the ear Bluetooth headset.
The lightweight heavyweight.
The lightweight heavyweight.
Wow, that is good. Now, we all want to do the narrowband, wideband? Okay, let's go ahead and roll that. So people, you're gonna do it back to back. Okay, go ahead. This is the wideband one.
I'm taking the Plantronics 5200 Bluetooth headset out for a spin, taking it out to the park. It's a lovely, beautiful day. We've got blue skies, but we've got some wind. You want to take a call. Maybe you get a call from the boss. Maybe you've got to jump on a quick conference call with a bunch of colleagues, or a client happens to call you. The last thing you want to do is sound like you're in a wind tunnel or sound like you're outside.
When you're outside, the telltale sign that you're outside is the wind, the number one reason, or other road noise. So I'm taking a walk out to the park, and we're going to see what this sounds like out in an open field where you've got wind blowing, you've got other elements, you may have cars going by. So, yep, there we go. So you can take in a little bit of this wind. And this has been the test with the Plantronics Poly 5200 UC Bluetooth headset.
You can see the difference. There's a difference there, that narrowband. Again, narrowband is gonna be more like this, where your voice is a little more concentrated and focused because those other frequencies are being chopped off. The trade-off there when you go to wideband is that it's gonna consume a little bit more battery and talk time. For me, Dave, I stick with the wideband because I'm always near somewhere where I can plug it in, and I've got the travel case as well. So if I'm out and about and I need more juice, I just pop it in the travel case and I'm good to go.
Yeah, in this case, I think wideband is certainly the way to go. But listen, it's not always this obvious. We've tested some products, corded headsets in an office environment where it's not cellular. We're not talking DeX. We're not talking Bluetooth, just a straight up corded headset. And wideband and narrowband, I've sometimes have experience where narrowband is sometimes better. And then sometimes with wideband audio, depending on who you're connecting with, if they can't support wideband with whatever IP network you're using, or analog telephone, just standard POTS telephone lines, you know, sometimes the wideband doesn't carry over. But for all intents and purposes, here, that wideband, night and day, it sounds much, much better.
Okay, you're right. And I want to also, we've got some comments that have come in through LinkedIn. Let's do Mike, remarkable headset for any environment. Hashtag 52 Voyager 5200 UC. I agree, Mike. Thanks for chiming in, leaving us your comments. I'm surprised by that. We also have Brian also chiming in. In 3 of the tests, the M300 was the same, if not better than the 5200. All right, Brian. Okay. And then this is not indicative. Brian says it's not indicative of the M300. Reach out to tech support. As the set you're using may be wrong somewhere. Okay, we will. And you know, we also would love to have somebody from Brian. If you're probably connected to Blue Parrott. If not, we would love to have somebody from Blue Parrott and give us an explanation. Come on, we're open to everybody. So
yeah, come on in, Brian. We'd love to have you on the show.
Absolutely, we'd love to have you. And you know, you can point out maybe things that we got wrong. I have zero problems with admitting something we got wrong, and we want to redo the test. Absolutely, not a problem here. So Brian,
Hey, nothing wrong with a rematch, right?
no, there you go. That's it.
Pay-per-view rematch.
We could do a rematch. You know, we've done reboots of some of the episodes just to update some of the material that we have. So we'd be glad to do that. I could hear it says Brian also says at the construction site, I could not hear any noise when you were wearing the M300. Now, Brian, I do know one thing for us, we've got these studio earpieces in, so we're able to hear some things. I don't know if you're hearing it on your PC or your phone. Sometimes the sound and audio may not be the same, but if you're wearing some headphones and you're not hearing anything, again, Brian, drop us a line. We'd love to have you or somebody from Blue Parrott come out and set the record straight.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So last thing that we have is some ratings, or we're going to do the pros and cons. What do you have, Ori? Okay. So ratings. So people like us to quantify a little bit. So I kept track of some of these tests. Voice clarity on the 5200 for me, I would give that a 4. So if we were to just say, how did that voice sound overall? I would give it a 4 because there were some instances where it didn't perform up to a 5, but overall, I'm looking at my notes, I give the voice clarity a 4. Now, noise blocking capability, this is where the 5200 shines. I've got to give it a 5 because it withstood almost all of the tests and performed very well where other headsets that we've had on this show have not. So I've got to give it a 5 because I have full confidence that this will do the job in just about any condition.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, Rolando. I think I'd give it the exact same score. 4 for voice quality and 5 for noise blocking.
All right. And let's go to the M300. All right. So here I'm torn because you've got a couple of things that it performed better than others. I'm going to go voice clarity. If we were to say the 5200 had, I would give this a 3.5, but we don't have halvesies on this one, so I would have to go. I would have to go 3. I mean, it's a 3.5 in my book, 3.5. But yeah, 3. There you go, a flashing 4 for the 3.5 on this one. As far as noise blocking, it just didn't do the thing that the 5200 was doing. And again, Brian, if you want to reach out to somebody at Blue Parrott, they want to come on, we'll redo the tests with a different firmware or whatever. We're open to that. But in this particular case, I would have to also go with a 3 rating on this one. We've had other headsets come on the show that have actually done way worse than this. But again, as far as the tests are concerned that we did, these 6 different tests, I would give it a 3 out of 5. So how do you see it, Dave?
You know what? I agree with the voice clarity about 3.5. On the noise blocking, I gotta say that did a really good job when you were in the car, which was, just one of the environments that we tested it on. Maybe for noise blocking, I'd give it a 3.5 only because I do like how it performed when it was inside the vehicle.
That was the test that it won.
That was the test that it won.
It was in the car. It won that test. So in this one, Dave, you give it a 3.5 for voice clarity and
a 3.5 for voice clarity, and shoot, I'll just call it a 4 for noise blocking, because of how well it did in the car with all the windows down. All
right. Well, there you have it, Dave. So in this one, you have both ratings on the 5200 and the M300. So let's go to pros and cons. If we were to sum it up, I would in the totality of both of these devices, with the 5200, you have a couple of more options. You have more flexibility, and we also have other videos where we've done some extensive tests on some of these devices. We could probably put those links as well. The 5200 gives you some flexibility if you're in and out of the office, because you have the option to get the travel case along with the dongle that allows you to plug it into the computer and do all of that as well. The con, if you were looking at a con, is this is priced a little bit higher than the M300. The M300 is priced very aggressively at $99. This the 5200 starts at $119 MSRP, and it goes to $219 if you include the UC version with the travel charger and the dongle. So that's the pros and cons as I see it on the 5200. Dave?
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I would spend a little bit more money on a 5200 UC for that travel charger alone. You know what? It's nice. It's nice that you have something that you can stick it in, close it up, throw it in your bag, and be on your way, and know that the product is doing two things. It's being protected. You spend a lot of money on it, and it's being charged at the same time. So I really like that charging case. Also, what's nice about that case, if you are using it in the office, it also acts as kind of a charging stand.
Oh, yes.
You know, and the right now the Blue Parrott doesn't have that, and they may be going after different markets. I'm not exactly sure the sales strategy, with the Blue Parrott product there, but I definitely think that some of the strength there with the 5200 is the ability to kind of expand beyond just having a Bluetooth headset standalone. You have the ability to connect it into your computer or other external, other device, and that case is a pretty big deal in my opinion.
Okay, well, there you have it, Dave. Both are good devices. These, if we were to drag out a bunch of those other devices that we've tested, they've fared better. But against each other, it's like Muhammad Ali and think of some or even Mike Tyson versus, I don't know, but he wiped everybody out, so that's not a good comparison. Maybe Muhammad Ali, who was that? Sonny Liston? Didn't they have or am I that's further back in time?
We were talking boxing the other day, and you knew a million times more than I did.
Well, if we were in the more modern fight, it'd be maybe like Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather. Those was a big mega fight. In that one, Mayweather fared better than Pacquiao, who is and by no means a slouch. I'm a fan of Pacquiao. That day, Mayweather had the better fight. And in this case, that's how I would look at it. In this particular instance, the 5200 just edged out the M300. Again, both quality products. They both have their merits. But if I were to put my money on it for my particular needs, because I'm also in and out of the car, I do everything that you saw are things that I also kind of do on a regular basis. I would go with the 5200. But a good second choice, if you're on a tight budget, would be the M300.
Yeah, I mean they're both great products for the folks that need to have that sort of wearing style. I wouldn't consider anything else than these two solutions right here.
Well, good choice. You're right, Dave. In terms of comfort, I got to tell you, there are probably hundreds of headsets out there that you could pick that are this around the ear, that wrap around the ear. These two probably are the standouts in terms of comfort and then performance as well.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, if you've hung all the way to the end, we want to thank you. And before we get to the wrapping here, we have the answer to the trivia. Dave, let's get to it.
Good. Nice, easy, true or false question. All right. So, Rolando, I'm going to throw this over to you. The world's first truly wireless in-ear headphones were unveiled at the IFA Technology Show in Berlin by a Japanese consumer electronics manufacturer, Onkyo, which I may be mispronouncing. What do you say?
I don't know, Ori. You're going to get me on this one. I'm going to go true.
I'm going to go true.
All right. Oh, yes. We did it. It was truly the first in-ear headphones unveiled at an IFA Technology Show. Look at that. Wow. Good guessing, Ori. Again, keeping us on our toes. And so everybody that came out and watched this particular video, we want to thank you for watching us during the live. If you've watched this during the playback and you're hanging into the end to see if there's a nugget, we got one for you. Dave and I are right over here in these two videos where we put some more tests on these manufacturers to see if they're up to par. So join us in those two videos, and we've got more head-to-head matches for you. See you then.